Welcome everyone to the very first profiler coaching session. This is an introductory to the entire course as well as an introductory to the first module, which will be on healing coaching. I'm Antonia Dodge and I'm very happy that you're able to join me. This is going to be a beautiful supplement to profiler training, because profiler training is all about understanding a system, a fairly complex system for understanding how people think, how they make decisions, how they learn new information, and being able to really have compassion for how other people are wired to see the world. Profiler coaching takes that one step further and uses the information that we now have, the knowledge that we have about how people work, to help guide them to a better version of themselves, to help them reach their true potential using an understanding of how they are wired, how they're hardwired. So profiler coaching takes all of the principles, all the learning, all the understanding that we gained in profiler training, and then kicks it up a notch into using this information to guiding other people to their to the best version of themselves possible. So this is going to be an amazing program, and I'm super excited that everybody is here. One thing I want to mention before I get going, I'm not going to mention housekeeping every single time, but I do want to do a little groundskeeping before we start this session. I just want to remind everybody that this is going to be fairly deep content that we're going into in all of the following sessions. So if you have the ability to really focus on this content, the more you're able to focus, the more you turn off phones, the more you're able to sort of shut out all of the external distractions, the better you're going to be. I've got to turn mine off too. See, I didn't turn mine off and you got my beep, so I'm going to follow my own rules. All right, so that was a beautiful time for everybody to turn their phones off, turn off all distractions, and really allow yourself to super focus on the profiler coaching course. One of the mind's most amazing abilities is the ability to fully focus. So that's the groundskeeping. Try to get yourself in a context where you can fully absorb yourself in this information. Like profiler training is going to have a lot of fairly complex content that is going to require a bit of figuring out along the way. As with profiler training, it's not just a matter of learning and absorbing the information, it's also a matter of being able to, really put yourself in it and take it out to the world and experience it. So my friend Sasha Lala, who is a women's empowerment coach, said something recently to me on a phone call that I thought was brilliant. She said, "I believe that authenticity is the currency of the future." So what I took away from that, what I took away from this concept that authenticity is the currency of the future, is that we will show up and bring value to others, and we will understand value with other people by being fully present and fully authentic. One of the things that coaching does is it helps bring people, using the system, profiler coaching in particular, is it helps guide people to a point where they are fully authentic, where they feel like they're able to express who they are to the world without any apology, without any shame, and they get full permission to do so. So profiler coaching in particular is a way of bringing people to that fully authentic state. But let's go back to the principles of coaching in and of itself. Everybody on the call, everybody who's going to be getting this program later, there are varying levels of the coaching process. You could be somebody who's just considering coaching right now, just kind of toying with the idea, and this is one of the tools you're putting in your tool bag in order to be the best coach possible when you begin. Or you could be somebody who's been coaching for a very long time, and this is one more thing that you want to use to supplement what is already a thriving coaching practice. But regardless of where you're at, understanding the basic principles of coaching is a really excellent way to begin asking ourselves, how are we going to bring profiler coaching to the world? So businessballs.com had just a fantastic, bullet point write-up on what coaching is. And they said that coaching aims to draw out a person's potential rather than put Hold on one second. All right, there I can see my slide. Coaching aims to draw a person out and draw their potential out rather than put in aims and knowledge from the outside. So the point of coaching isn't to tell people what they're supposed to be doing and you're going to get them there. The point of coaching is to figure out what the person wants to be expressing to the world. What is something that they're just not able to get out of their shell? What is something that they're having a little bit of trouble bringing to the world and need, you know, a bit of guidance, a bit of tutelage, a bit of coaching to get that potential to come out to the world. Really good, solid coaching develops rather than imposes. It reflects rather than directs. Effective coaching is a form of change facilitation. It enables people rather than training them. Coaching is reactive and flexible. It allows for personal transition on an individual basis. And it makes no assumptions. It's not judgmental, nor is it prescriptive or instructional. So the kind of coaching that we're going to be focusing on is, again, it's what brings out a person's authentic, true potential and gives them an opportunity to really see that flourish. It's not about telling people what they're supposed to be doing. It's not about saying this is the direction you're supposed to be going. And in particular with profiler coaching, because we can get inside a person's mind, like truly get inside how they are hardwired, then we're able to bring that piece of them out. It's not about forcing any particular direction. It's about helping the person themselves create what they were supposed to create, what they're supposed to bring to the world. How are they a gift to the world already? And they just need a little bit of facilitation to get that out. So obviously empathy is central to the coaching process. And that's one of the reasons why profiler coaching, or at least using profiling in coaching, is such a massive, major helpful tool. Because one of the things that happens when you truly understand how a person works, you know you really have gotten inside their mind when empathy and compassion are the result. You really know if you've gotten inside somebody's mind if you can't help but feel empathy and compassion for them. And it doesn't matter who the person is. It doesn't matter how broken you perceive them to be. It doesn't matter how awful they are. When you truly understand what their motivations are, you can't help but feel compassion for them. So profiling in coaching is a way to develop that empathy. Now, you might be a person who has a natural empathetic nature, which is awesome. I'm not one of those people. I love humans. I have a lot of what I was trained to call agape, which is the Greek word for principled love. So I have a lot of natural principled love for people. I love life. I find life to be very precious. I really enjoy engaging with other people. And when people are what I would have in the past deemed as stupid or idiots, it's really difficult for me to sympathize with them because I think they're morons, right? Like that's my personality type. My personality type as an accuracy person has a tendency to dismiss whatever doesn't make sense. Because I've learned the skill of profiling, though, I've been able to understand that that was a limitation on my part. So not everybody just automatically naturally feels empathy, and that includes people who are attracted to coaching, right? Like I'm a coach, I'm attracted to coaching, and I don't have a natural sense of empathy. So not everybody just automatically assigns empathy to others when they have a desire to coach. So profiling is a wonderful tool to use to build that skill, right? Because it's a skill of feeling empathy and compassion for other people, which is absolutely necessary in allowing them to direct the process. So once again, coaching is not about imposing your goals onto the client. It's about facilitating them and specifying their own goals and teasing out their potential to obtain them. So that's the kind of coaching we're talking about. One of the reasons why I wanted to define that particular principle in coaching is because that's the assumption, all right? As we go on, as we talk about healing and achievement and transcendence coaching, which is the HAT model that I'm just about to launch into, when we talk about all different types of coaching, the assumption is going to be that we're talking about facilitation. We're not talking about imposing goals. All right, so what was I talking about when I mentioned the HAT model? So the HAT model is a model that was given to me by a friend of mine who helped me get into coaching in the beginning. And they basically broke down coaching as it falls into 3 different categories. The H in the HAT model stands for healing. The A stands for achievement, and the T stands for transcendence. And these are the three primary categories of coaching. When people choose to go into coaching, they are either consciously or unconsciously choosing one of these three categories primarily to focus on. And I highly recommend doing that because we have a tendency to have a natural skill. We have a tendency to have like a natural talent for healing in one of these three. For me in particular, I really enjoy achievement coaching. That's my primary focus. And I know other people who really enjoy healing and transcendence work. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of talk about the value of the HAT model. And I'm going to talk about how to kind of guide yourself into the niche that makes the most sense to you. So H stands for healing. So what is healing? Healing is addressing emotional and psychological trauma. It is body and physical healing as well as it is psychological and emotional healing. So when you're doing coaching, the people who are doing like a lot of fitness and nutritional coaching generally fall under healing. Now, if you're trying to, if you're a body trainer that's trying to get somebody up to a higher degree of tone, toning their body, fitness, building muscle, looking a specific way, that's generally going to go under achievement. However, if you're trying to get somebody from a baseline of, or up to a baseline of really eating, good nutritional food, one of my friends who is a nutrition coach, she says, don't count calories, count chemicals. And so that would be like basically healing coaching, because we're talking about not getting yourself cut to a particular like beautiful space, like place with your body, but it's more like, hey, cut the chemicals out of your system so that your body can heal on its own. So healing addresses physical healing, and it also addresses emotional and psychological trauma. And we're going to start with the first module on healing. As we talk about that, we're going to talk about what healing looks like and also define the word trauma. What is trauma? So we're about to go there tonight. The second letter is an A, and that refers to achievement. So achievement is business goals and money mastery. It's personal goal setting and BHAGs, or what is also known as big, hairy, audacious goals. So when you're making like big life goals, when you're trying to figure out, where you're going to end up in the next 5, 10, 20, 50 years, this is all achievement coaching. This is project support. So a person might not be, creating a magnet in the middle of the field of some big, hairy, audacious goal, but they could be just trying to get through one specific project that they need a little bit of assistance with. That would also be achievement coaching. And skill development. So anytime somebody's trying to build a skill, so you could see this in maybe athletics, or you could see this in, people basically trying to, they're at a baseline of health, there's no real trauma, but they're trying to get to a goal that they've got some sort of glass ceiling built, or maybe they just don't know how to get there on their own. They don't have the specific A, B, C, D, chart, and so they need a little assistance to get to their goals. So that's achievement coaching. Again, that's the one that I personally favor. And then there's transcendence coaching. Transcendence coaching is anything that has a spiritual bent. So this would be anything that is like ego work. What ego work is the idea of not being too attached to your ego, the part of you that wants to live and creates all of these feelings of separation from what is oftentimes called the source. It's spiritual guidance, it's expanded consciousness work. A lot of religious coaching will come under the transcendence model. Sometimes it comes under healing and achievement, but if it's got a real spiritual bent to it, if it's about becoming part of something bigger, this is oftentimes transcendence work. Now, what's really important about the HAT model, and something that I want to break down, is that this is a three-legged stool. All right, the HAT model is a three-legged stool, and by what I mean by that is that all of us, right, coaches, the people we're coaching, every person on the planet that is doing any sort of development work needs to have all three of these in relative balance, which means that just like with a three-legged stool, if one leg is particularly long and the other two are short and stubby, the stool is going to topple over. It's going to be imbalanced. And that's basically how it works in us. We all need to do healing work, we all need to do achievement work, and we all need to do transcendence work. And as a coach, you can hit all three of these categories if you want to, What I've observed is generally the better way to go about it is to niche in one of these three areas and then have another coach that is focused on the other two on speed dial, which basically means that you're focused on one, you're mastering one element of this, you're really great at this piece. And then let's say for me, I'm an achievement coach, right? I focus on achievement. That's the thing that I love to do. I have a healing coach that I refer all the people who I interact with who, have come to me for achievement coaching. And after, a freebie session or one session, I go, you know what, I actually think you might need some healing. I think healing is the direction you need to go. And here's the number of a great coach that focuses on that. And I do the same thing with transcendence. I have somebody who I know is a fantastic transcendence coach, and that's the person that I refer all of my, my people who come to me for achievement but actually need transcendence. So why would somebody come to you? I guess that begs the question, why would somebody come to you for, say, achievement work when what they really needed was healing or transcendence work, right? That's a really good question. Why would somebody mistake the kind of coach they need? Well, first of all, obviously not everybody knows the HAT model, and not everybody understands exactly what they're looking for. They know they need help, they know they need coaching, but they're not 100% sure exactly what kind of coaching they need. And the other piece of it is that oftentimes people will smuggle their true needs under a different category that particularly appeals to them. So the same way that I'm attracted to achievement coaching, I'm also a person who's attracted to achievement in my life. And that's how most people are. People will become more attracted to one of these three areas over the other two. And that means that if they have a need, if they're looking to develop themselves, if they're trying to get to the next level, just like all of us that have preferences, we're going to seek out more coaching in the area that we like, that feels good to us, that is a natural attraction. And we're going to kind of ignore the other two. So what that can look like is if a person comes to, say, me for achievement coaching, right, and they're like, I really, really want to get to the next phase of my business. I really want to get to another, to the next place. I want to make, a certain amount of money per month. I really want to understand what my, my big, hairy, audacious goal is. And after one session, we start talking, and it's very clear that they have some major trauma in their past. Maybe their upbringing, or maybe it was something that was just a bad dynamic with a previous spouse or something to that effect, that's actually what's going on for them. They can't get to that next level, not because they don't have skill built, because oftentimes what I'll see with these people is they have a ton of skill built in it, right? Because that's what they love to do. They love to collect all these achievement skills, and they've been taking training from this person, and they've been taking training from this person, and they've got all these skills, and they still can't get to the next level. And it's usually because there is something toxic inside of them that is poisoning all of their efforts. And they just can't see it. And they keep trying to heal themselves through achievement. That person needs healing, right? They need to go to somebody who has the ability to get inside to that place where there be dragons, or that part of them where, just feels really icky to have to address, and then go nourish that piece of them. Go heal or get the healing process started, and then suddenly everything opens up. Because if somebody's in a state of trauma, they consciously or unconsciously are allocating all of this mental real estate to just dealing with that, right? Like that trauma, it's not like you can put it in a pretty little package and put it on the shelf and be done, right? Like it's there, it's inside of you, and oftentimes it's poisonous. And just like any poison inside the body is going to require a lot of the body's resources to allocate to fighting this poison, the same thing happens on a psychological level, or even on a physical level. I've seen people who are trying to deal with the fact that they've got a terrible diet, that they're maybe even morbidly overweight, that they are not taking care of their physical health, and they keep trying to achieve when clearly there's something in their life that they need to address. So healing can be healing through achievement, or using achievement coaching can be a smuggle for people. Now that happens in the reverse as well, right? You've got people who are very attracted to the concept of healing. They're very attracted to getting inside themselves and dealing with their issues and teasing out all of the different things that could have gone wrong in their life, and finding their first traumas and finding all of these parts of themselves that they just know were abused when they were younger. And they focus on healing. when really they're actually at a baseline of healed. They're actually at a place where they could get to the next level. What they really need is achievement coaching. They need to start making plans for their life and get out of this state of constantly nursing what they believe is, a wrong done to them. And so those people, if you are a healing coach, listen out for that. Listen out for people who are avoiding getting to the next stage, maybe out of fear, maybe out of a little bit of lack of self-confidence because they're not sure that they can get to the next phase of their life, and are really, really focusing on the idea of like, no, I just need to heal myself just a little more. Because I think people mistake healing with self-confidence, right? Like if I'm healed, I'll feel good about myself and I'll want to go to the next level, which is not really how it works. How it works is you say, I want to get to the next level, and you get to the next level despite the fact that the entire time that you were getting to the next level, you were, racked with self-doubt, and you had moments of complete and total like disillusionment, and you're like, why am I even doing this? And I'm never going to make it, and I keep fighting, scratching, screaming, and then I get to this precipice, and I'm like, oh, that wasn't so bad, right? And suddenly, in retrospect, you have all this self-confidence. Oh, that was easy. I could do that again, right? And then you get to the next precipice, and it's the same story over and over. That's actually how success works. That's actually how achievement works. But people who get really focused on healing believe that feeling of having gone to the next precipice, that's something that healing will give them, which is not accurate, right? You have to actually have achieved to get all the rewards of the achievement feeling. So if you're a healing person, be listening for that. Be listening for the person who's in perpetual healing. And transcendence is a little different, right? Transcendence is one of those things where it kind of feels like people have to sort of seek the Buddha on top of the mountain. They have to feel some sort of spiritual loss, or they have to feel like they have, they have to get to the next level spiritually. That is to some extent accurate. You can't force spirituality on a person. And that's not, of course, what a coach does, right? A coach guides the person to the next phase that they would like to get to. However, there are times where people are in achievement, say, and what they really need is a little bit of transcendence work. Because what transcendence does for a person is it helps them think ecologically. Because they're connected to something bigger than them, it forces them to see outside of themselves in the small little ecology they've created, and helps them understand how their actions and behaviors have much broader consequences, especially when you do expanded consciousness work. And this is for maybe the person who is a high achiever that is taking action or making choices that profoundly affect other people in a bad way. Like the companies that go to third world countries because they don't have the regulations and pour battery acids into the rivers so that the children that are born 2 miles down have their brains on the outside of their heads, right? This guy needs some transcendence work, right? So it is entirely possible that you're an achievement person, achievement coach, and you're talking to somebody and you're like, I don't think achievement's what you need. I think you might need to get a little closer to the source. Now you're going to find some resistance here. If a person's really focusing on achievement and you go, yeah, I actually think you need healing, or yeah, I actually think you need transcendence work, you're going to get massive resistance because the person wants to achieve, right? And that's on them, right? That's on them. That's their choice to make. If they only will accept achievement coaching, then, you're a coach. You're not making them do anything. However, it is not a bad idea to still make the recommendation. And if you feel uncomfortable coaching somebody who actually needs somebody else's assistance besides yours, it is completely appropriate to divorce yourself from a client, which I've done. I've actually divorced myself from clients before, broken up with them basically because they needed something that I couldn't provide, and they weren't really interested in, pursuing that in another way. And I just made that call, right? I was like, I'm not the person that can help you here, and that's just how it is. So when you're looking at the HAP model, it's very important to ask yourself, where do I fit? What is my gift? What is my talent, right? One beautiful question or amazing question to ask yourself is, when do I feel the most triumphant? When I'm coaching somebody, when do I feel this burst of success come through me? When they get to a baseline of healing from a trauma, when they achieve a goal that they weren't able to achieve before coaching, or when they get connected to the source, when they're able to truly expand their consciousness, or maybe tap into whatever, element of spirituality that makes sense to you. Which one just lights you up and just makes you feel warm all over? That's probably what you should be focused on, right? That's probably where your skill lies. So in the HAP model, really ask yourself, where's my niche going to be? All right. And again, you can break it down, like healing's body healing as well. It could be nutrition. It could be wellness. It could be helping people go, survive divorces, right? Survive maybe a relationship with, narcissistic parents. It could be anything emotional, psychological, or physical. With achievement, again, this could be physical achievement. This could be health and wellness in a, let's get ourselves up to this like really awesome level of fitness. That could be it. Or it could, again, be a specific goal in, say, business, or even in relationships. Relationships usually fall under healing, right? Because oftentimes when they come to coaching, they're at each other's throats. They have a really bad dynamic set up. So usually it's a healing process. But sometimes you get these people who are, like power pairs, who want to be coached together so that the two of them can get up to their BHAG, or figure out what the family's BHAG is, right? Like, what is the couple's big, hairy, audacious goal? And so sometimes achievement coaching can be also in relationships. All right, or transcendence. And again, transcendence is whatever flavor of spirituality that you personally, believe in. All right, so where do you find yourself? Where do you find yourself? Healing, achievement, or transcendence? Good question. All right, so keep that in mind, all right? Kind of be ruminating over that. If you already have a coaching practice, you most likely have landed in one of these three. If you have and you don't have somebody or two other coaches kind of on the line for the other elements, go find some. Go find some really good high-quality coaches that you would feel safe and you would feel trusting to hand a client over to. All right. Let's talk about how the different types coach. So what we're really going to be focused in right now is not the people you're coaching, but you as a coach, right? What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? What are your focuses going to be? And the reason why I made the chart the way that you see it, I didn't split it up based on type. I split it up based on cognitive function. The reason why I did that is because we really are very powerfully motivated by our cognitive functions. And this way you can kind of find yourself in both the judging and the perceiving processes. Because, like, for me, I'm going to be an exploration coach, right? I'm going to lead with exploration, but I'm also going to be an accuracy coach. So I'm going to look at the strengths of both of those, and I'm also going to look at the weaknesses. And I'm going to kind of understand how they fit together. How are these two things fitting together, and how am I really bringing the best of what I have to offer to my coaching clients? So let's go over this chart a little bit, and as we hit on the cognitive functions that you have, especially your driver, and then of course supplemented by your co-pilot, really kind of start asking yourself what kind of coach you are. Now, when we hit your co-pilot, right, that's going to be, as with everything, it's our co-pilot process that we need to spend more time developing. When we talk about your co-pilot, ask yourself what you can do as a coach, right, or as a person who's aspiring to be a coach, to really focus on building the muscle that the co-pilot process coaching will bring you. Does that make sense? Okay. I hope so. I didn't get any feedback, but I'm hoping that makes sense. All right. So Harmony coaches. So these would be people who are using Harmony as a driver or as a co-pilot. All right. INFJs, ENFJs, ISFJs, and ESFJs. All right. All of the Harmony coaches, their major strength is that they bring honesty with kindness. All right. Because Harmony and accuracy, they're sort of a yin-yang, right? They're a polarity. We've talked about that in the past. Harmony and accuracy is a polarity. So Harmony coaches are going to bring just a smattering of accuracy in with them. So they will be honest. They will have an element of saying, quote unquote, saying it how it is. But the beautiful thing is that they do it in a way that is very, very palatable to the person being coached, right? They can hear it because they know the person, the coach, cares about them. So one of their major strengths is that they have honesty with kindness. And they can intuit when a challenge will be too much for the person, right? Because they're really tapped into getting that person's needs met, and they can kind of get when something might need a little bit of alteration. maybe this particular, hurdle or this particular trigger, this particular resistance might need a little bit of patience. They're pretty good at kind of intuiting when they need to maybe have a softer touch. One of the weaknesses of harmony coaches is that they can be hesitant when painful truths are needed. So they'll have a piece of that accuracy, right? They'll want to be honest. They'll be able to understand the message that needs to be presented. But if they have too much harmony on their radar and don't really want to upset the person that they're coaching, their client, they can have a bit of hesitation when that painful truth needs to be delivered. Their major focus is getting needs met, obviously, relationships, and self-acceptance. A lot of harmony people go into healing work. Right? That makes sense. Harmony coaches have a tendency to really enjoy healing. Especially relationships. If you are a person who leads with harmony, relationship coaching is a major piece of what you can bring to the table. Harmony coaches are really amazing with understanding that a relationship is not just this person and this person, but that the relationship itself is also another piece of the dynamic. They're very good at understanding that. They're very good at understanding sort of the the bartering system of love, to put it in a terrible way, to really understanding how value exchange happens in relationships. They just get that. So oftentimes their focus or their niche is healing in relationships. That's usually what they're best at. Doesn't mean they can't do anything else, right? Doesn't mean that they're locked into that niche. I guess I just used the word niche, so I should probably be consistent. They're generally very attracted to relationship healing. They can do anything they want, obviously. But if you're a harmony person, you're probably getting what I'm saying. All right, let's talk about accuracy coaches. So what are accuracy coaches great at? They're great at spotting cognitive dissonance. That is what accuracy does. It targets any sort of intellectual lack of integrity in the person and goes, are you seeing what you're doing there? Right? It's spotting all sorts of incongruities and inconsistencies. However, when it delivers truth, it does it without judgment, right? Because accuracy is all about truth without any sort of social pressure on it, right? Like, why should we, okay, I was wrong. Okay, you were wrong. No big deal. So what's great about them is that they will spot all of this cognitive dissonance, and when they point it out, it won't feel like they're saying you're a bad person because of it. They'll just go, oh, did you notice that? Kind of like, hey, did you, notice that, I don't know, your tire's a little low on air? Probably want to put a little air in it. It kind of feels on that level of judgment. So that's one of their greatest strengths. Their weakness, however, is that they can see the client as a puzzle to solve and then create resistance from the client from a lack of sympathy, right? Because it's, everybody to an accuracy person, not everybody, but it can feel like they're little Chinese finger puzzles, right? Like, I'm gonna figure this out, I'm gonna fix it. And so that's the biggest weakness, is that accuracy coaches have a tendency to some extent dehumanize their clients by forgetting that they're talking to a person and seeing them as the challenge that's been presented. What's their focus? Their focus is on removing self-deception, reframing, and asking the question, why not? Right? Like, okay, so you don't think you can do this. Why not? Right? Because they're removing the social component. A lot of times we have been socialized into believing that we have limitations, and accuracy doesn't really care about those social limitations. And so it goes, why not? Why not do that? You want to go be a painter in Paris? Okay, why not? So that's the major focus of an accuracy coach, and that's the major thing they bring to the table. Now, just to go back, when a harmony person is hesitant when painful truths are needed, generally all this is, and when I talk about any of the weaknesses, including accuracy, seeing them as a puzzle to solve instead of a person, these are the kinds of things that solve themselves over time. The longer you coach and the more, you're going to get instant feedback as a coach. All right, that's just how coaching works, right? Like, you piss off a client and they're paying you and they get really mad at you and they say it, right? Or they go, okay, whatever, and they hang up the phone, and then, you're like, hey, so we're doing our session this week, and then, like, they're nowhere to be found. So you're going to get pretty close to real-world feedback with a client. And when they need that painful truth and you're hesitating and you're not seeing any results, you're going to see that, right? You're going to get feedback, even if they're not saying, hey, I'm pissed off at you. You're going to get feedback that it's not working. With an accuracy person, the client's going to be like, I feel like you're treating me like I'm not a person. You're going to get that feedback right away. So it's generally just a matter of going, oh, okay, I can see how I dehumanized you there, right? And then pull in a more human touch. It doesn't mean that you're going to harmony. It's just it reminds you to see them as a person. For harmony, it's not that you're suddenly becoming accuracy. It's just that it reminds you that it is your job to deliver a truth that they need, right? You're getting their needs met by delivering a truth that is required to get to the next phase. So generally the weakness is something that it just needs some time and experience. However, be on the lookout for this. All right, so just kind of be on the lookout for this thing maybe infecting some of your coaching, especially early on. All right, effectiveness coaches. Oh, by the way, accuracy is generally pretty good with achievements. Sometimes they can do healing, but they're usually not the best healers. Generally, the best healers are feelers, but you can see a thinker person come and be a healer in kind of the Dr. House sort of style, where they get the job done even if they don't have great bedside manner. That can happen. Especially like physical healing, right? That can definitely be a piece of it. But for the most part, accuracy is generally better at achievement. They can also be surprisingly good at transcendence work, which is interesting because accuracy people are the least spiritually connected on a statistical level. However, oftentimes they're pretty good at getting to a place where they understand on a very like sort of on a TI level, on a very accuracy level, how the ego will dick with a person, right? They're usually pretty good at that. So accuracy can actually be very good with transcendence work as well. Generally, achievement is where they focus. All right, let's talk about effectiveness coaches. Their strengths, they create metrics around goals. They'll give specific step-by-step guides and how-tos. This is what most people are looking for from coaches, right? They're like, all right, give me specific goals. You don't give them the goal, obviously. However, you can help them create a blueprint for getting to their goal. And this is the best thing about an effectiveness coach. The weakness, though, is that they may be so focused on creating results, they might not explore the question that the client has, which is this really what I want, right? Again, it's that sort of yin-yang between effectiveness and authenticity. Remember that the person's individual goal, what they're trying to get out of the process, is the important piece. That's the framework we're using for coaching. This is not even necessarily co-created, although it can be if the client wants that from you. However, you're not creating a goal for them, you're helping them discover their own goal. So as an effectiveness person, just really keep that in mind. Just really tag that this is not about just getting it done, right? Getting the project handled, getting them to this big, hairy, audacious goal, if the big, hairy, audacious goal is not authentic to them. All right, what's the focus of an effectiveness person? Cost-benefit analysis, right? Things like the 80-20 rule, which is, Pareto's principle, that 80% of our return comes from 20% of our effort. They're very good at discovering what that is for you, right? Like when, if you're an effectiveness coach, you're very good at sitting down with somebody and creating a plan of attack that goes, don't focus your efforts on here, focus them on here. This is generally what an effectiveness person does in their life, and they're great at sharing this with others. They're fantastic at goal setting and pushing through resistance. This is a big one for coaches. Not all coaches are great at pushing through resistance, right? And sometimes a person will not be ready for something, and the resistance is coming up because they're not ready for it, which is what the harmony person is really good at intuiting. An effectiveness person, though, is actually pretty good at gauging whether or not this is something the person actually can get through, that they're just hesitating, and getting them through that situation, really pushing them through resistance. Effectiveness, obviously, is very well suited to achievement coaching. The majority of achievement coaches you see out there are effectiveness people. Doesn't mean they can't do transcendence, doesn't mean they can't do healing. However, they're usually most interested in the achievement piece. All right, let's take the last one of the judging functions. Let's talk about authenticity coaches. Authenticity coaches, their strength is to guide people toward inner alignments, Hold the vision when the client loses faith. This is a big one. With all the authenticity coaches I've seen, one of the best things that they do is they help the person see this beautiful ideal, and when the person themselves goes through discouragement or they have any sort of opposition from the outside world, the authenticity person can hold that vision for them, and then they can teach them the skill of holding the vision. Beautiful, beautiful piece that authenticity brings. The weakness, though, is that they might be too gentle. Right, we talked about harmony. This is, it's feeler versus thinker, right? Feelers are very sensitive to other people. And so if somebody it feels icky and they don't want to get through it, a lot of times the feeling coaches that are very sympathetic with that and don't want to push too hard. Harmony can do this with like truth, right? Like it's like, I got to tell my client this thing, but I'm really hesitant because I know they're going to be upset, or I project that they're going to be upset. With authenticity, they might just be too gentle in general. And then create a codependent relationship. So for the authenticity coaches, really watch out for this piece. What I mean by codependent relationship is that you can create a relationship with your client where they think that they're not picking up the skill from you. They think you're the source, right? And they got to go tap into the source. And so they can't see themselves as escaping, like they can't survive without your coaching. And it can be, part of it can be that you just really love working with the person, that you really feel very, satisfied by working with them and very fulfilled, and it's hard to let that go. Or it can be that you just really like the money. That's a codependent relationship with the client too. They have to come to you because you're the source, and you just really like that they are a consistent paycheck. So really, and I'm not saying authenticity people are this way. Anybody who creates a codependent relationship with a client has to look out for this, okay? It is probably one of the biggest mistakes that coaches can make, especially early on, is keeping the person perpetually tied to your coaching. The point of coaching is to get them to a place where now they have their own wings, right? They have their own wings the whole time, but they may have, for some reason, they may have put a rubber band around them for some reason, or they feel somebody else did that to them, and they're just trying to find a way to, remove the rubber band around their wings. And that's your job as a coach. Your job as a coach is help them understand that they have it within them, right? You're just guiding them through the process. If you create a codependent relationship with your client, and that means that they can't see that they're doing it, then now you have fallen into a hero role and they're a victim, and you are instantly in a codependent relationship. And that's one of the least ethical things you can do with a client. So really keep that on your radar. This goes for everybody, but authenticity coaches have a tendency to have that weakness because they just really like the relationship they have with their clients. What's the focus of authenticity? Self-expression, core values, and honoring the individual. One of the best self-expression coaches that I know, she's a voice coach, and also she's a coach for public speaking, for anytime you have to get out in public and engage with the public through your own self-expression. She's an authenticity coach. She's amazing at that. And that's what authenticity coaches really focus on. Healing can be a big piece of this, right? Why are you not getting to the next phase? Why are you not able to express yourself? I know that a lot of authenticity people who are in self-expression really focus on what's called the throat chakra and why it's closed, and that can have to do with trauma and having to do some healing. And they're also, as a general rule, pretty great transcendence coaches as well. They can be achievement coaches, right? I'm not saying anybody can't be anything, but they have a tendency to be attracted to either healing or to transcendence. All right, so did you find yourself in that? All right. Do you kind of get an idea of maybe some of the things you need to be looking out for as you start your coaching practice? And can you really see the amazing thing that you bring to the world, right? That's the other piece. Look for this not to just go, okay, that's my weakness, I got to make sure that I'm not doing that. But focus really on the fact that you're bringing something as a coach that's absolutely imperative to your clients, right? All those strengths, clients need those, right? They need all of that. So really kind of celebrate the fact that you bring that to them. And feel good about that. Really focus on that strength. All right, let's talk about the perceiving processes and how they impact your coaching. If you lead with any of these, by the way, remember what we said about the judging processes in coaching and really focus on how you can bring those up to a better place, which basically means that I'm an exploration driver, so it's really the accuracy piece that I need to be focusing on for the most part, because I'm going to naturally do the exploration coaching. And vice versa, if you happen to lead with any of the judging processes, if you're, say, a harmony coach or an effectiveness coach, as we talk about the perceiving styles of coaching, really ask yourself how you can beef up on those strengths and really bring those to your clients. All right, so the perspectives coaches, what are their strengths? They can completely understand the perspective of the client, right? Like, so I mean, it's a no-brainer, right? It's such a no-brainer. They can really get inside the other client's minds and their hearts. Like, I've seen perspective coaches have a very short coaching session with somebody and put that person into tears, right? Like, tears are streaming down their face because they've never felt so understood by another human being. Major piece of it. When a person feels fully understood, they hand over so much trust to you. They hand over so much to you. And I think the phrase is, Cameron used to mention this, Cameron, my old business partner, used to mention this a few times, and the way that he said it is, when you can describe a person's problem back to them better than they could describe it to you, they unconsciously believe that you have the solution, right? Like, unconsciously it just triggers in them that you also have the solution to that problem. And what perspectives can do is it can understand a person to a point where that person says, you understand me so well, I am unconsciously believing that you also have the solution to my challenge. And it's beautiful. It's a wonderful thing that a perspectives coach can bring. However, the flip side of that, the weakness is that they might have difficulty advising the client on how to get into action, right? Because that piece, that understanding piece, is so obvious to them, right? Like, they're just like, yeah, I totally get you. So what should I do? I don't know, right? Like, that's the thing that perspectives people have to get through, is this idea of I don't know. Now, if you're a perspectives person that uses harmony or effectiveness, ask yourself how you can pull in the strengths of effectiveness and harmony to supplement this weakness, right? If you're an INTJ and you completely understand the client, add the ability to create metrics around goals, giving specific step-by-step guides, add that piece to it. Rely on your effectiveness training to be able to supplement this piece of truly understanding them. And the same thing with harmony. Use your harmony abilities, use your harmony training to understand where the person's at and get them through challenges with honesty, right? Like, just kind of guide them through with that kindness, that coaching, and that honesty that is necessary, especially in that relationship piece. All right, exploration coaches. The strengths: exploration people see the etymology of challenges and address them at the root. This is one of the best things about exploration people, is that they have the ability to trace back where this problem came from. Like, why are you experiencing this? And so they're able to sort of see these patterns, like, that the person themselves may have never connected, right? Like, one of the best coaches on the planet that does business coaching, it has understood that one of the major reasons why people can't get to a monetary place that they want to be at is because they have a bad relationship with money, right? Like, they don't get how money works. They have magic thinking around money. And so where he starts is by explaining how money works. And then he gets to a point of, okay, now here's the how-tos. So this idea of, like, sort of the etymology of where the challenge started and addressing it at that place, that's one of the major things that exploration brings to coaching. But the weakness is that they might forget to listen to the client fully before jumping into advice. So unlike the perspectives person who's, like, totally listening and totally getting how the other person is thinking, one of the things that exploration people need to learn the fine art of is listening, right? Make sure you're not just assuming you know what the challenge is and just sort of bulldozing the person with, you know, your belief of what the solution is. Exploration people do this all the time, by the way. They guess the ends of movies. They're always anticipating what the other person thinks. One of the arguments my husband and I have, and he's an ENFP and I'm an ENTP, so we're both exploration drivers, is that sometimes we won't let the other person finish their sentence because we assume we know what the end of the sentence is going to be, right? And then we look at each other like, oh, I feel heard, right? Like, thanks for letting me finish the sentence. And so we're both doing that to each other. So one of the things that exploration people have to really, sort of keep their finger on the pulse of is whether or not the other person or the person your clients, the person you're coaching, feels heard. Because even if you were right that you know what the challenge is before they say it, right? They will think you don't know because they assume that they have to fully explain their situation to you. So as opposed to this perspectives person, where they'll unconsciously assign the solution to them, the opposite will happen with exploration. They'll assume you can't be able to guide them. You can't guide them because you didn't hear them out. So keep your finger on that one. All right, and again, if you're forgetting to listen to them carefully, then utilize your accuracy or your authenticity ability. If you're an accuracy or authenticity person, really listen for accuracy, for the cognitive dissonance. Really, you have to really listen to the person to be able to spot, sort of their inner sort of inconsistencies that they're not seeing. So really go to that listening place for accuracy. And for authenticity, really go towards, understanding the person's inner alignment by truly listening to them. One thing, by the way, that exploration is really great at is seeing potential. One thing I didn't write down, but I probably should have, and it just kind of came to me now, this is an issue I've had as an exploration driver, as exploration coach, is sometimes we can get a little idealistic about people's potential and how quickly they can get there. So if you're an exploration coach, whether you're leading with it or not, just kind of keep in mind that you might have overvalued your expectation of them. You might see them as being able to get to a place faster than they actually can, and you got to have some patience. You got to kind of hold space for that. All right, sensation coaches. Their strengths, they won't allow the client to use victim-y psychology as an excuse, right? Right? Well, my mother beat me. Okay, what does that have to do with what we're doing now? Right? Because sensation doesn't really cut into all that perspective stuff. So if you're a sensation coach, one of the things you bring to the table is the fact that you won't let people's sort of their belief in their limitations limit the coaching. Now, sensation people are generally the best personal trainers, right? Like they are the best at getting people to a great level of their physical training. And one of the reasons why is because they don't care if you didn't want to come into the gym today, right? Like they don't care. Get your ass in the gym. And they're great at that. So that's one of the things they bring, is that you aren't really allowed to use, sort of that psychology place to not get to the place where you need to be. One of the weaknesses of sensation coaches is that they might have trouble tailoring their advice to different styles, right? That single paradigm perspective, or not single paradigm, but that single perspective space that sensation tends to occupy, generally thinks that one size fits all. If it worked for this person, it'll work for this person, right? And so one of the things that if you are a sensation coach that you might want to keep in mind is that people oftentimes need a little more tailoring than that. And so as a sensation person, again, pair it with your accuracy or your authenticity. Pair it with that piece that really listens to the person and understands how things might need to be sort of nuanced to their individuality. All right, memory coaches. Memory coaches have practical, time-tested advice and guidance. One of the absolute best profilers to come out of profiler training. And we've had over 50 people, by the way. Over 50 people have gone through profiler training in the last 3 years. One of the best profilers was an ESTJ. And the reason why she was so great is because she just did everything by the book. Like exactly as we said to do it, she did it exactly as we said to do it. And she ended up fantastic. When she turned in her passive profiling assignments, she got almost everybody right in both Star Wars and in Royal Tenenbaums, which is at the time that was the passive profiling assignment. She like both the Star Wars, which is a very ostensibly very sensory sort of movie, and Royal Tenenbaums, which could be called a very intuitive movie. She got them both great, and we were looking at each other, kind of going, so how did that work? And it made me feel good because it made me feel like, okay, so what we taught is actually right on, right? Because somebody is doing it exactly as we say it, and they're getting these great results. And that's what memory coaches bring, is that they bring this they're very loyal to their coaching training. And so that's a major strength of theirs, because they don't go off script too much. And so they just have really great time-tested advice. The weakness, though, is that if the situation does go off script, it's a little difficult to manage. And again, all of these weaknesses, both in the perceiving and the judging piece, all of the weaknesses come down to experience. The more experience you have, the more feedback you get, the more you're able to kind of, work your way through all of the weaknesses. All right. So we're just going to go through this, just kind of understand sort of what to watch out for, what to really be kind of making sure that you're utilizing, and some very specific advice for coaching. So if you are a Harmony coach, use your strengths to help your client feel taken care of through thoughtful gifts, sincere praise, and hard truths delivered with kindness. So make sure you are delivering the hard truths, but make sure that you're using your Harmony skill of doing it gently. Thoughtful gifts. I actually called a friend of mine who is a Harmony coach and also a client to another Harmony coach. So she's an INFJ and she has an ENFJ coach, and they both do coaching. And she said one of the best things that her ENFJ coach did to make her feel awesome is give her a gift when she started her coaching package. And it was something like a plant, right? Like she just gave everybody in her coaching, program a plant. And the Harmony person said it made her feel so good, right? I'm like, that's exactly what Harmony does. So if you are a Harmony coach, consider giving thoughtful gifts, just to kind of break the ice and just make your client feel really good. Everybody can take this advice, right? Obviously, but I would say that the Harmony people are the best at really following through with this. And watch out for feeling responsible for clients' outcomes and becoming too emotionally attached. So if you think that getting their need met means making it happen for them, you're going to have trouble. So make sure that you create a clear boundary between getting their need met as a client, right, which is coaching them, and not feeling like the hero or not feeling responsible for their success. All right, accuracy coaching. Help your client develop their intellectual integrity with non-judgmental truths. Check in to make sure they're ready for the slap. What does that mean? That means that when you're about to deliver something hard, make sure that you've set the expectation. One of the things that I do is I just ask them, I just say, look, I'm seeing a major place of dissonance, and it's probably going to be a big one for you, right? Like I'm like, this is not gonna feel good. I'm about to say something that you're going to resonate with, and it's probably going to hurt a little bit, and it's going to create some resistance. Are you ready for it right now? Right? And when are they going to say no, right? They usually say yes because that's the coaching session. So, but the being able to frame it and kind of like get them braced a little bit helps, that you're not just like slapping them across the face with these truths and they're like dazed and confused, right? Like make sure that you got maybe some framework around it. And cheerlead using a 1-to-1 ratio as you're calling them on their BS, which means 50% cheerleading, 50% calling them on BS, right? That's, for me as an accuracy coach, I have noticed that is one of the best ways to actually deliver those hard truths, is to make sure that you have equal parts cheerleading. Cheerleading doesn't mean you're lying to them. Okay, cheerleading means you're coaching, right? You see their potential and you're saying, I know you can get there. I know you can get there, right? That's the cheerleading part. It doesn't mean you're lying to them. All right, watch out for seeing your client as a machine that needs fixing. That's the big one, all right? They're not a machine. They're a human being. Make sure you're not seeing them just as their challenge or problem. Make sure you keep the human element there. And watch out for impatience. One of the biggest problems that accuracy coaching brings is impatience. And so make sure that you are being fully patient. All right. So effectiveness coaching. Help your client to get into action by cementing an action plan, clarifying goals, and teaching your clients Pareto's principle, that 80-20 rule. All right. Get them into action by giving them that blueprint that helps them get to where they want to be. And then watch out for imposing your goals onto your client. Just as we talked about before, sometimes it can be a little, like, this is what I want you to do. So make sure that you're checking in and make sure that the goals that you have set are actually their goals. And even though you're great at getting them through resistance, make sure you're not pushing too hard and creating the resistance through the push. Authenticity coaching. Help your client reach their inner alignment by truly hearing them, all right? That's your bread and butter, amazing ability, is to hear your client. Dario Nardi, who used to be professor at UCLA and he ran the EEG mind mapping experiments on people, experiment sounds like lab rats, but he would basically map their minds for their cognitive functions. And they found that people who lead with authenticity, when they're listening to somebody, they create a halo effect around their head, or basically around their brain. That means that all of their listening receptors light up like a Christmas tree. They are in flow when they're listening. It's an amazing, amazing talent that authenticity people have. So if you're an authenticity coach, really hear them, really get into your flow as you're listening to your clients, and then guide them toward unapologetic self-expression. It's one of the best gifts that you can give to your client. And then hold space for any and everything, right? If you have a client that needs a gentle touch and you're not the kind of person who gives a gentle touch, like moi, always have an authenticity coach waiting in the wings when you go, okay, I'm going to hand you to somebody who's a little better at that than I am, right? Because I'm the person who's working on patience all the time, and the authenticity person who's like, hold space for everything. So that's what you bring to the world. Make sure that you're really using your strengths. Now, watch out for ambiguity when setting expectations at the beginning. What does that mean? Make sure that you have pre-created, by pre-created I mean before you enter any coaching session, make sure that you have clarity around monetary, timing, and goal expectations. If you cannot create this for yourself, find somebody of a different personality type that can help you create it. One of the biggest problems that authenticity coaches face is that they are ambiguous with what the result will be in the beginning, and they create discord with their client because the client had a different expectation than what actually ended up panning out. And the other one is avoid creating codependence, which is they see you as the source, and you really like the arrangement. All right, for perspectives coaching, use your strengths to get to the parts of your client's mind and heart that they can't even access. Right? Obvious. Watch out for mistaking theory for reality. If you haven't figured out how to overcome an obstacle, avoid coaching others. Now, that's not to say that there's nothing about theory that's valuable. Obviously, we have a tendency to work in the realm of theory. I very much work in the realm of theory, so it's actually, it's not that you can't coach theory. But make sure that you are at least a little further along in the journey than your client, so that you can ensure that the advice you're giving them is truly practical and doesn't just work in your mind, right? Make sure that you have some evidence that what you're telling them to do is actually going to pan out in the real world, which is, of course, why perspectives coaches have a tendency to get really I'm not sure what to say to the person and how to guide them. Again, tap into harmony and effectiveness. Use your harmony and effectiveness, right, whichever one you are, to implement these same strategies in your life and actually watch them pan out. That's you developing your co-pilot as well. And then bring it to your client. All right, if your style is exploration, mirror back to your client their greatest potential. Okay, maybe I did say this later. I was like, I didn't write this down, even though I'm thinking about it now. And I'm like, okay, actually I did write this down. All right, so you as an exploration coach, you're fantastic at seeing your client's potential. You're fantastic at seeing where they could be, because that's how exploration people think. They think in what ifs. They think in terms of potential. But watch out for overwhelming your client with this concept of their potential. They may need some time to see themselves as you see them. Sensation coaching, use your strengths to get the client to jump into action using specific exercises. Sensation people are fantastic at creating specific, actionable, get inside your body, kinesthetic exercises. So use your strengths to do that. But watch out for overvaluing your own experience. They may need a more personalized approach, which means it's kind of the opposite as the perspectives person. Be careful that you're not seeing them as, a carbon copy of you. So this worked for you, so you assume that it works for everybody else. So just be a little sensitive to the fact that they might need a little bit of a nuanced approach. And for memory coaches, share your expertise that you've already experienced. Do I have it written down? Share your expertise, what you've already experienced. Okay, I guess that could potentially work grammatically. It sounds like a little kid that's trying to learn to speak for the first time. Share your experience. Oh, in what? Okay, sorry. I had a little thing that was covering the word in. Yeah, share experience in what you've already experienced, or expertise. So that actually grammatically works. All right, so share your expertise. How have you seen this pan out before? How do you know that other people have seen this pan out before? pull on all that resource and expertise to help your clients. But watch out for coaching that requires more zooming in and zooming out than you're comfortable with. So if your client needs something that's a little more esoteric, if they need something that's a little more theory, you might want to hand that over to a perspectives or an exploration coach, because that's more of their area of expertise. All right, so where did you fall in all of this? All right, what is your style? Where did you find yourself? Can you see yourself already kind of getting an idea of what your niche is or should be? If you already have a niche and you're not quite feeling good, can you see some actionable sort of things that you can work on as a coach yourself? Maybe some bullet points for, you know, how you can approach your clients in a much, much more polished way. Maybe some action steps of like giving a gift, or making sure you're cheerleading, or clarifying goals, or, you know, truly hearing your client. Are you seeing things that you can implement in your coaching practice? All right, so the HAT model is a very, very, very powerful model as a coach for trying to figure out exactly where you're going to land as a coach. We are actually at a point, time-wise, where I don't think that I'm going to spend too much time in introducing healing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to introduce the concept of healing in the first session of Profiler Coaching, which will be the session after this. This was an introduction to the entire program, and I really feel like focusing on what kind of coach we are is the best place to start. So really ask yourself, where do I fall in the HAT model? What kind of coach am I? All right, so where do you think you fall, and do you have any questions about that? Let's go ahead and start a Q&A session right now for anybody who you know, maybe wants to pursue this a little bit more, maybe needs a little bit of clarity around it, and maybe wants a little bit more practicality or application, or maybe just kind of wants to give some feedback on their coaching and their coaching style. So if you have anything that you would like to say, maybe a question that you'd like to ask, everybody right now is muted, so feel free to mention something in the chat room, and I'll go ahead and unmute you, and you can talk. And it's your turn to talk, as opposed to just have me yammer on. Dave says, I have a question. Awesome. Hold on one second, Dave, and I'll unmute you. Hey, you're unmuted.
Greetings. Can you hear me okay?
Yep, perfect.
Hey, awesome. When you're going through some of the drivings, you mentioned harmony coaches, accuracy, effectiveness, authenticity. When you came to perspectives, what is your experience for perspective coaches in terms of the HAT model?
I have actually seen perspectives coaches in every single element, and they are good at all of it. Actually, when it comes to the perceiving processes, because these are learning styles, all of the perceiving processes I've seen in every single element of coaching. The one exception might be sensation coaches, which have a tendency to stay in the body. So they do both, you know, I've seen, actually, no, what am I talking about? I've seen them in all three areas. I've seen them in healing, like healing the body and getting it back to a baseline. I've seen them in achievement through, you know, physical therapy, or through personal training. And I've seen them in spiritual work all over the place. ISFPs in particular are some of the most, basically the most religious and spiritually minded. And I've seen a lot of ISFPs in coaching roles that are very religious or spiritually based. So basically with all of the perceiving processes, one of the reasons why I didn't really go into what they have a preference for is that's sort of more, because it's less evaluation, it has a tendency to be more open to any possibility. So perspectives coaches can fit all three of them. So it's usually our judging process that gives us a heart for something. Does that make sense? Like, because that's our evaluation criteria, we have a tendency to be more decisive in our decision-making process. So that's usually what kind of guides us to, like, I have a preference for working in this because my evaluation mechanisms just marry to that a lot better. But as far as the perceiving ones, they're a lot more open. And perspectives coaches are amazing healers, can be fantastic achievement coaches, and are the best transcendence coaches that I've seen too. So
Hmm.
Pick your
So,
pick your fancy.
so what you're saying is, if your co-pilot is a Harmony, then chances are good that you'd be involved with healing, or perhaps relationships. Would be would be a pretty fair statement.
Yeah, I think it's just because they love it, right? Like Harmony just loves relationships. They just love engaging with people and, serving their needs. It is the service industry and health care, like not a coaching, but like actual nurses, etc., are overwhelmingly FJ. Like
Hmm.
Harmony people are all over the healing industry when it comes to medicine. So it kind of makes sense that that would probably translate to coaching too. It's just what they're interested in. However, one of the best business coaches I know, like I've ever personally engaged with, is an INFJ. So I don't think there's any real limitation.
Makes sense. I'm finding these charts very helpful in particular,
Oh,
and of
good.
course the whole introduction is extremely helpful. Are the charts available in PDF format by any chance?
Yep, absolutely. As soon as we get this up, which we're going to work on tonight, because anybody who couldn't watch the intro is going to want to watch it before Saturday or Sunday if possible. So we'll get it up tonight, and then we'll have the PDFs as a downloadable piece with the session.
Awesome.
Hmm.
Thank you.
Good. I'm glad you
Thank you
found them helpful.
very much so.
Cool. All right. Thanks, Dave. Great question. I appreciate it. All right. So, does anybody else have anything they'd like to say? Oh, what? I don't even have my chat open. So, Ivan is actually Mariana that's on with Ivan. Ivan's wife is Mariana, who is awesome, and she says, "I adore you," which right back at you. You're inspiring me to go back to coaching again. Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm so glad I'm inspiring you to do that. Kelly says, "I have a question, but I'm on the phone for the mic. No problem. Let's see if I can get you unmuted." All right, so I think I just sent you an audio pin. That's what it said, audio pin sent. So I don't know if that's helping you log in. I hope you can ask the question, Cal. Are you able to come back on? There we go.
Can you hear
Now
me?
you're unmuted.
Oh, okay, great.
Yep.
Great. Hi. I've
Hi.
been having all sorts of computer problems, so this is good. So this is sort of weird, and I may not even apply here, but I remember when you were first doing this introductory webinar, I don't know, a month or so ago, you were talking about an INFJ that you had talked to, and she said that she was offended by your methodology of coaching, and you said that you were sort of offended by her methodology. Was that just her personal methodology, or is that sort of more universal for INFJs?
It was a client of mine.
No,
Sorry.
no, I think it was one of your, well, I don't even know if it was a student or just some INFJ coach that you had been talking to at that time recently. And you may not even remember. I just have had that on my mind going, I wonder if there's something there to be learned.
Oh, okay. So unfortunately, I'm almost functionally retarded when it comes to my memory. So I just peeked over to Joel and kind of was like, "So, do you remember what she was talking about?" um, if it's the one that he thinks that you're referring to, so it might not be. Is it the person who I defined intuition in a certain way and they took umbrage with that? And they were really, or did I not even mention the content at all? I
You
just kind of
didn't,
mentioned the context.
you didn't, I don't think you mentioned the content. It was more a coaching philosophy, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And it may not even be applicable at this point. I just thought there might be something that we could all glean from it.
Mm-hmm. So, I haven't seen that as a universal. I may have offhandedly said it, and then I don't really have a lot of memory around it. But I do I do know that there are certain types of coaching that are very clearly more appropriate for certain contexts than others. As a coach, I mean, and maybe this is just limiting beliefs, but I think it's actually been very healthy for me and for some of my clients. I don't bite off something that I know I can't, like more than I can chew. I'm pretty sensitive to understanding if I'm able to build rapport, which I will be talking about, by the way, is rapport building with your coaching clients. And I probably will do that in a bonus. I'll talk about building rapport and some of the specifics about coaching, maybe some of the business end of it as well. I'm going to do a bonus around that. But just kind of understanding how rapport gets built. If I'm talking to a potential client, I'm doing a freebie session and we're just engaging, and I know that I'm not building rapport with them, it's not happening, I can't make it happen, I just like go, I don't think I'm the right coach for you. Because one of the things that the person has handed over to you as your client is they really need to believe that you are fully on their side. Like, they have to unquestionably believe that when you are delivering information that is icky or that they don't want to hear, that that it's not, it's based on all these, like, they've created many strategies to deal with not having to hear this piece of information, which is the one thing they have to hear, right? If you don't have rapport built with them, they won't believe it comes from compassion or love. They'll think you just want to tell them what's right. And if you ever get in a situation with a client where they believe that you're just trying to school them, not that you are compassionately guiding them, then all bets are off and the coaching arrangement is completely destroyed at that point. So rapport is absolutely vital for making sure that the person knows you love them, and this is something that you have to say in order for them to, to get to the next level, which you have a vested interest in seeing them do. So as far as, like, I mean, I have an ongoing INFJ client right now who is, I mean, I'll just kind of tell you my style. Other people are different, but for me, I almost never coach anybody more than 6 sessions. I personally believe if I can't get them to where they need to be between 3 and 6 sessions, I'm probably not the right coach for them. So I have very short, very short relationships with my clients. And it's just because I'm an achievement coach, and one of my biggest things that I do is I help people figure out what they want to do with their lives. What's their big BHAG? And then once we figure out what their BHAG is, then we create a skeleton of an action plan, and we get them to a point where they go, yeah, I think I can handle this on my own. My INFJ client is somebody who has chronic illness. And so because of that, his ability to do things at a fast, like the pace that I'm used to, is massively retarded. And so I've just, we've just kind of patiently been going through what he needs to get through, patiently going through him, like, getting up to a healing point with his other coaches, because he's got healing coaches as well. And then we kind of try to keep the peg of achievement going while he's keeping his healing going. And he and I get along fantastic. Like, as an INFJ client, he and I are great. Like, I've actually had to make sure that I don't create a codependent relationship with him because he and I get on so well. So it's really, I wouldn't say that an INFJ ENTP coaching arrangement or like a philosophy will always be off kilter. It's just, I mean, if it was, it would kind of make sense, right? Because we're such different personality types, but sometimes that gel's perfect. It's not so much about the personality type of the person you're coaching as it is just your individual ability to create rapport with them. And if it doesn't come naturally, it's not coming naturally. I mean, I don't think you should force it with a client at all, rapport. So I would say rapport is the more predictable piece than the actual personality type.
Yeah.
Was that a very... Oh, go ahead, sorry.
Well, I don't think it was it wasn't about a client. It was about another INFJ coach. And it was more of your philosophies were different. And it may just be long enough ago that it's just we'll have to pick it up in another way, because I can't remember the details, if you even gave any. I think it was really more, like I said, philosophical.
Okay.
So I think my question is just sort of like too little, too late.
Okay. Well, maybe if you can, I'll be thinking about it, and maybe we can bring it up in the next session or two. And I have had differences of opinions with coaches for sure about, like, length of how long you should be coaching, and like I'm really sensitive to that codependent piece, and I know other coaches who have no problem with it. They'll coach forever. the same person.
Yeah.
Like
Well,
years and years and years. And I mean, I have a difference of philosophies on that for sure.
Yeah, I think this just sort of hit my harmony piece a little bit. It's like, oh, there was discord there. What was it about? Because I don't want to repeat it. And it was, and I don't even know. So that'll do. I just thought if it was right on the tip of your tongue or mind, it would be an interesting thing to know. But
yeah, well, if I can recall it, I'll bring it up later. I just
okay.
Again, like it's, I'm Dory. Like every time I blink, it's a whole new world. I'm like, what did I say 5 minutes ago? Yeah, just keep swimming. So
that
yeah.
can work. All
All right.
Thanks.
Thank you, Kelly. I appreciate it. All right. So any other questions that we have before we close out the very first intro session to Profiler Coaching? Any other feedback, anything that you want to make sure that you definitely get in these sessions? This might have maybe gotten some juices flowing for like maybe what you're looking forward to getting to, maybe what, some of the very specific questions you have on coaching and application, and I'll make sure that, that those get seeded throughout the coaching modules. Also, feel free to email me, right? Like after this session, if you're like, oh, this is kind of how we're going to be going about it, what I'd really like to see is this, make sure you shoot me those in an email if you don't think about them now, if you think about them later. I want to make sure that everybody, like if at all possible, if it's at all relatable, that it gets addressed in the coaching sessions. Because, you guys in your feedback are going to tell me where you're at and maybe some of the, the best the best pieces to address, the best content to address for people who are at varying levels of coaching. All right, I'm not seeing anything in the chat room, so it looks like we're good. All right, guys, thank you so much again for joining me for the Profiler Coaching intro. I'm really excited about this course. I think it's going to be killer. I'm very, very happy I'm putting it together because it is forcing me as a coach to really distill down what it is that I do. So of course I'm learning just as much as everybody else. So thank you guys, and I look forward to seeing you for session 1 of module 1 coming up on Saturday.